But I think a lot of business owners find it very hard to find the time to actually take time out of the business and look at it holistically and be like, right, what are our next opportunities? And I think actually making time to do that is very, very powerful. So that's what I'd recommend doing.
How did you come up with the topics? Like, can you maybe walk us through how would you advise somebody that wants to start a YouTube channel for business, like the way you eventually did? Basically, it's a funnel that educates people, puts them in your course, potentially moves them to your service. Top tip for people that are looking to start a business, like based on your experience, doesn't need to be anything magical. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Hey everyone, and welcome back to the CEO After Dark show. I'm super excited because today I have with me Lucy Jeffrey, the mastermind behind Birdkind, one of the coolest soap brands in the UK that actually has a mission, and the mission is to help save endangered animals. But on top of that, what is super interesting about Lucy is that she's also running Candid Founders, which is one of those businesses that kind of start from an accident almost. Like she had this YouTube channel idea, which ended up being like a whole business in and of its own. So she has the service perspective, the brand perspective, and all in all, a very interesting perspective. So Lucy, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Oh, thanks, George. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice intro as well. It's fun being called a mastermind behind something.
Well, let's start from the beginning. My first question is why socks? Like socks is such an
I get
important.
asked this a lot because I have no background in this industry. Like I came from banking. That was my first job out of university. But I was running, Bearkind started as a kind of sustainability-led brand. So I had other products. I had reusable straws, recycled tote bags, recycled T-shirts, like made from plastic bottles. And I wanted to add in the charity donation model that we still have today. So this is 10% of the profits donated to animals. And I wanted to bring out a product that made sense for that because none of my products actually had an animal on them. So I started with turtle socks. And the reason I picked socks is because I was like, it's quite a simple product, like very like unisex, but also simple sizing. Like if I was to go for any other kind of fashion item, there's a lot more you have to consider, the whole sizing range, and it's much more complicated. So I just started with socks, that one design. I put turtles on a sock. I got it manufactured, found a charity who we still work with today, and I launched them just as a test. I was just playing around, but people loved them and were like, I love this idea. What animals are you going to do next? So I then kind of had a fast follower of like bees, leopards, penguins, and people really liked them. That started taking off. And so I quite quickly dropped the other products and doubled down on the socks. And now we have like up to 100 different designs now, and it's become an actual sock company. But again, there's going to be a theme here, as we'll find out as we go through, but it was kind of accidental how I kind of fell into this path.
And sorry, just to make sure I understand the full context. So like you were in banking, and then one day you said, "I'm just gonna do this business like this," or
Yeah.
like was there some?
Yeah, I was on the grad scheme at the bank, and I enjoyed it, but I knew it wasn't something I was super passionate about or wanted to do forever. It was a good job out of uni, and I learned a lot, but that was about it. So I started the brand because I felt like I needed to do something else. And typically, you're on a grad scheme. I did also feel like I had time to do so, and I think I was around someone. I think my partner's friend had started a business or something. So I think something clicked with me that I was like, that's cool. He's done that. I reckon I could do that. And so I just kind of was playing around. I started by drop shipping. Like it wasn't, I
Yeah.
probably didn't even consider it like as a business in my head. Like I was just selling stuff, which sounds stupid. I know that's technically what a business is, but I was just playing around. And it grew legs and arms. And I quit my job in 2020 at the end of, pretty much at the end of like that COVID year. And yeah, so that's now just over 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
So you had inspiration. You found drop shipping. You said, "I'm going to start this project." Project, I assume, took off to an extent, and then through this, you launched a YouTube channel and a podcast. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's again where we've kind of accidentally fallen into launching this second business, Candid Founders. So where Bearkind was growing, we launched on a marketplace called Fair. It's an American business, but they launched in the UK 3 years ago. And I explain it to people by saying it's kind of like Etsy, but with B2B. So we, as an independent brand, sell our socks to independent retailers, shops, boutiques, just anyone that wants to buy our socks at wholesale prices and sell them to their end consumer. We did really, really well launching on the platform in the UK. When we were an early adopter of the platform, but we also really saw its potential and just ran really hard at it and did loads of like our own lead generation, emailing our customers, like just really pushed hard on it. So we grew super fast. We became like the largest, but definitely the quickest growing sock brand in Europe on this platform. Which is huge because obviously we're actually quite a small business overall, but on this platform we took up a big market share quite quickly. So off the back of that, we were just sharing advice and videos and just things about Fair on YouTube. And actually the main purpose of that was to try and get more people to buy our socks. It wasn't even really to do anything else other than explain what Fair is and try and gain some trust. Because a lot of people hadn't heard of Fair. So I was trying to jump on camera and say, don't worry, it's not a scam. Like, it's us. We're still getting paid, but it's just a sales platform essentially. But because of that, we were kind of very, very early in the niche on YouTube of like sharing information about Fair. So people started coming to us and asking for advice.
Yeah.
And that's where we've started to pivot in the last couple of years, launch way more content. We've really doubled down in this area and position ourselves as Fair experts. We're now consultants to like major brands around the world that want to know more about Fair and are seeing it as an opportunity, but also a kind of like full service agency. So our clients come to us, they have a product brand, much like we have Bearkind, and they want to grow on Fair. So we do that for them. We do all their SEO, all their email marketing, lead generation, messaging customers in the platform. It's like a full service approach. But for anyone that wants to just do all that themselves, they can learn from our YouTube.
So one of the things you said is that Berghain became the fastest growing brand in Fair, in its category at least. And obviously I'm sure that there's a lot to it, right? But like, what are like the top needle movers for people? Like, what should they focus on?
Yeah, so what we explain to people when they want to grow on Fair in particular, because what Fair will bring you customers. They have an algorithm where they'll learn what kind of retailers works for your brand, and they will bring you customers, and they take a commission off those sales. But what we tell people is you can't just sit there and expect that to happen. You need to go out there and do stuff to bring more customers in, and then the algorithm will start to learn what retailers are buying for you. So you're bringing in customers, great, Fair algorithm loves it. And then the algorithm will go out and find more customers that match those and bring those in as well. So you're getting both come in. And that's where we were doing really well. So we started bringing in loads of our own customers. So you need to go out there and do your own lead generation and go and find businesses that you want to stock and pitch to them and send emails. And I think a lot of people are kind of scared of cold emailing, kind of scared of pissing people off, but you have to contact people, otherwise they don't know you exist. So it's kind of like that repetitive outreach that will work, that I think people just don't do, or they list on the platform and expect a bunch of sales just to fall in their lap, but you do actually have to work for it.
And is it mostly emails, or would you also recommend that people like actual call people?
Yeah, we've tried both. So we did do cold calling. We definitely recommend emailing. I think you've got to think of the retailer at the other end. They're typically, shop owners. So you've got to think about what they're doing with their time, and they're either in the shop or potentially, if they've done really well and they have a chain, then maybe they have a shop manager. Maybe they're not in the shop all the time, but these are busy people. And we found with cold calling, it didn't work very well. When we did it ourselves, as the founders of the business, we got more traction because we're the founders. We can talk about our business, no problem, all day, and have that connection as business owners with the person we're calling. So we tried that. We're like, okay, maybe this could work. And then we hired someone to do the cold calling, and it didn't work at all. Emailing seemed to land much better. People either don't pick up or they're just no interest in receiving cold calls. They're like, I'm too busy for this. Like, I've no interest. And I think because of Fair, the wholesale space has become a lot more transactional because people just want to shop online and they can pick and choose. It's way more competitive on pricing because, they can look at us as a sock brand and then compare us with all the other sock brands on there and it's just easier for them. It's just online shopping. So they don't really want to be called. So we genuinely say it hasn't worked for us. I mean, I'd recommend trying something. Well, that's why we did it. We tried it and we know it doesn't work for us. But generally, emails work.
What I find pretty interesting is that like it seems to me that when you decided to double down on fair, it wasn't as big as it is today, at least in the
Mm.
region. And I think there's something there because if you speak to 10 e-commerce founders, like 90, like 9 out of 10 are going to say Meta ads, Google ads. That's where their focus goes on. But you decided to do something different. And then you did it again because like you started creating content around this and then you saw another opportunity and you created this second business around this as a service. So first of all, what made you focus on that? And what, if anything, would you recommend to people that want to essentially get better at spotting opportunities? Because I guess that's what this is about.
Yeah, and we did really benefit from being an early adopter of the platform. The first thing that really pushed us into like looking at Fair and actually doing something about it was they had ridiculous sign-up offers when they first entered the UK. So they were offering, and again, this shows how it kind of helped us grow so fast as well. Their offer was for every brand that we bought, no, sorry, for every retailer that we bought to the platform. So if I go out and I find a shop and I say, hey, you should stock our socks, here's a link, buy through this platform, Fair. They got £300 of credit from Fair to spend on our product. So we don't pay for that. Fair paid for that. They get £300 of free product. And that went absolutely bananas. And I think a lot of people were really skeptical of it. A lot of brands and retailers. So brands were kind of like, is this even real? I did at the start, I was like, I need to check this out. Is this a scam? Because this doesn't sound right. But no, they were just venture capital backed and going like they were just shooting for the moon. So we were like, we need to make the most of this. So that's one of the reasons that we really doubled down. We saw that opportunity. It's also one of the reasons that we jumped onto YouTube so much because it seemed a deal that was too good to be true. We needed to put our face behind it to be like, we're not scamming you. This is real. And also we're not paying for it as the brand. Fair is. So make the most of it. And in terms of advice for like spotting these opportunities, I think it's just about being like aware of them and where you want to roll the dice and keep having that time out of the business. So I remember actually vividly when we made the decision to like double down on Fair is we took some time. So I run the business with my partner. We took the time to like sit down and be like, what are our opportunities in the business right now? Almost like a SWOT analysis. So we're kind of looking at like, what are our opportunities? And then just being like, well, let's roll the dice on this one. This isn't working. Let's cut our losses here. Like being very brutal with it. But I think a lot of business owners find it very hard to find the time to actually take time out of the business and look at it holistically and be like, right, what are our next opportunities? And I think actually making time to do that is very, very powerful. So that's what I'd recommend doing.
Were you always business partners with your life partner, or is this something that happened organically over time?
No, so we met when we were so we both worked at HSBC. So that's where we met. So we were both in full-time employment when we met, and we started dating, and we were together for a few years. We were maybe together for a couple of years before I started Bear Kind, and then it wasn't until 2023, so a good 3 years after I'd quit my job, that Andy quit to join me as well. And now we run both together. So he'd been there since the start. He'd seen the conception of it. He's always helped me with it. But he'd never worked in the business until like the last few years. So it's definitely been like a transition period for us because it's amazing, but it's also hard work working with the person that you live with, that you spend all your time with.
Do you have any advice? Like for me, it seems like extremely hard. Like I would not try this basically. Like it seems way too hard because it's difficult to balance the personal relationship. And then if you stack the business relationship of top of that, like I don't know how you do this.
Yeah, I think we had a really strong relationship already, so I would have already backed us to do well at running a business together. Like I was very confident that we'd be good at it, and I think the communication side of it is really important. Like again, it's similar to the taking the time out of the business to look at it holistically, is we do that personally as well. So we take time every quarter we've got one coming up next weekend actually, where we go away for the weekend. We take time away from our like usual space and we just plan things. So we look at what our goals are. We look at what we want to achieve in our life, like what we're doing next. What are some big things that are stressing us out right now? What's on our minds? What do we need to sort next? It could be like really small things, or it could be like, okay, where are we going to live next year? Where are we going to go on holiday? Like it could be anything like that, but we take the time to actually plan that stuff. So we do it from a business point of view. We do it from a personal point of view. So I think that kind of communication side of it is really important. One of the biggest things we struggled with when we first started working together full time was clarity on roles,
Yep.
because I was founder, Andy just came in and we just started working together and we were super excited. We just hit the ground running and just off away we went. And there was no structure to it. And I think what we've now fallen into, and we've had to work on it, is Andy is CEO and I'm still founder, and we've kind of split up the responsibilities of where our strengths are. And we're very lucky that our strengths align, because I'm more creative. I'm kind of more like, I do all the YouTube videos and the content, and that's, I really fall into that and really like doing that kind of thing. Whereas he's way more operational driven, structure. He likes leading the team. He's very good at managing the team. So we're lucky that our kind of strengths work well together, but we really did have to take the time and actually sit. We got like a business coach slash psychologist as well to kind of help us like map that out. I'd always recommend that as well, especially if you're working together. You need to have almost like that third person
Yeah.
to provide that structure. And we started with that. We haven't done one of those sessions in a while. We probably should, because they're super useful. But I think don't just assume it's going to work. We've got an amazingly strong relationship already, but we still have to work on all the bits to keep the moving parts going. And now we have two businesses and so much going on. So there'll always be something that we need to communicate on. So I think it's actually making the time to do that.
I guess the tricky part is like when it comes to like basically things not working, right? Like I'm assuming that like maybe there's some sort of KPI and then KPI is not met for whatever reason. Like how do you deal with this if it's your like partner? It's like tricky, I guess.
Yeah, and we've had that, right? We've had that last year where we didn't really hit the goals we wanted to on Bear Kind, but I think it's about looking at that together, and because we've communicated about it this whole time, there's no blame. That's the main thing. You can't blame each other unless someone is actually actively trying to tank the business for some reason. There is no blame involved. So I think from the KPI point of view, yeah, you just kind of agree on those together, but just keep communicating about them, because if you're not going to hit one, you probably should be already, as business owners, you should be aware of that already. It shouldn't just come as a surprise that you're not going to hit a KPI. So we've never kind of got to the end of the year and been like, what happened? This is such a surprise. Like we know where the business is going generally, and that's where we're quicker to pivot, I'd say. And that's, we've quicker to double down on fair, start the Candid Founders thing. So again, it just comes back to communication. It really is all about that, I think.
I want to stay a little bit more on the YouTube channel and the service company. Particularly, I want to understand how it started. Like you said that eventually you started producing essentially tutorials for fair. But did it start that way? Like how did it start?
No, so we called it Candid Founders, because when we first started it as like a channel, it was actually a podcast. So it was a few years ago now that we just wanted to talk more about the business. And I think I do know a lot of business owners that start podcasts. It just it's such a trend. People are just starting podcasts. We're like, why not? We'll start a podcast and we'll just talk about business, because we love talking about business, whether it's ours or someone else's, just super interesting. And one of the key motivating factors behind starting it was I was listening to podcasts like Diary of a CEO, all of these like high level podcasts where super inspiring, but the people on them are like miles ahead. They've like had their $1 million exit. They're like, in their mansions with their helicopters, like incredible. But I'm like, that doesn't actually practically help me right now, because it's inspiring and I can take some learnings from it. But I actually would rather have practical advice right now. Like, how important is my profit and loss and managing that? And what do I do with my cash flow? And the kind of the like small business problems that I think are super relevant to me because I'm so far away from that like multi-million-dollar buyout. So that was the kind of purpose behind starting it. But what we very quickly realized is very hard to get reach on podcasts on like from a search volume point of view on Spotify at least. So the YouTube was doing better than our like podcast platforms already. So we noticed that. And then the second thing we noticed is all of the traffic was coming through people searching for fair. So anything we talked about fair, anytime we'd ever release some kind of fair video, even if it was not really to do with the podcast, that's
Yeah.
what had done really well. Um, so we quite quickly actually pivoted away from the podcast because it wasn't working really. We weren't getting much traffic on it, and then started doubling down on these fair videos. And again, I wasn't doing heaps on it. I think it wasn't until maybe a year later where I realized that no one else seemed to be talking about fair that much, that I was like, I'm just going to keep going on this. I'm going to do a video a week and see what happens. And I wasn't monetizing anything at that point of view. Um, I wasn't monetizing anything at that point. But then I started selling like digital products. We had a course, and this then evolved into consulting and then the full service agency. So it was just one of those that kind of the opportunities kept like rolling and we just kept jumping on them. And now where we're at is really kind of like doubling down on the agency. I'm spending a lot more time on it. I'm actually looking to move to put more videos out per week, not just one, because I really see the opportunity here. So again, but we love a pivot. So who knows, maybe in a year's time we'll have, I don't know, a third business that we've come across.
How did you come up with the topics? Like, can you like maybe walk us through like how would you advise somebody that wants to start a YouTube channel for business, like the way you eventually did? That basically is a funnel that educates people, puts them in your course, potentially moves them to your service.
Yeah, absolutely. So how I come up with the topics is really because we're now like, I guess, experts in this niche, and it's a super niche. People are coming to us asking us questions, and it makes my life so easy because they're asking me specific questions. And I'm like, great, that's a video. That's a video. So like, I'd say the number one thing you need to think about when you're coming up with the content ideas is who your audience is and what would be valuable to them.
Yeah.
And we've discovered in this niche that people just want answers on how to do better on fair. So rather than all this like long form podcast content that we've been doing, we've kind of doubled down in just more specific, just actionable, just teaching them, as you said, we're just teaching them how to do things, and we're sharing. And because we have Bear Kind almost as a case study, right? It's become a bit of a marketing channel where we say, hey, we're business owners just like you. This is what we did on our business and it will work for yours. And now we've got clients, we can talk about what works on other people's businesses as well. But I think that is keeping in mind what the viewer is going to find valuable. And that's all content is really, is like what value is it bringing to whoever's reading it, watching it, listening to it.
So it's very down to earth, practical, talking head type of like do this, do that,
Yes,
build
very
business.
basic. I'd actually say to anyone that is not interested in, like, if you don't have a business or you're not looking or you've never heard of fair, like, it's so dry. This content's so boring. Like, this is not like a Mr. Beast, like, so exciting, dollars being thrown around and stuff. Like, this is literally very practical. Like, you could come to my teaching classroom and I'm like, hey, this is what you need to do, X, Y, and Z. And like, I'm very like, black and white with it. Like it's not super salesy, it's very to the point, and I'm just teaching people what we are learning. And I think that's what people like about the channel, because it's not super fluffy. I'm just telling
Yeah.
them exactly what I've learned. They find it quite authentic. Again, because I've got a business as well, I think they can relate to us a bit more as well, because we're going through what they're going through. We still have the same struggles that they do on like cash flow and managing inventory and all of this. So I think because we understand that side of the business as well, it makes a very good, well, I guess a sales pitch for us as an
Yep.
agency, because we're not just an agency and a salesperson. Like, I am a product business owner. I am exactly the same as you. I just happen to be an expert in this field now.
I have this theory, and I suppose you agree with me, that when it comes to this space, the e-commerce space, founders mostly ignore marketers and mostly listen to other founders. And the more you can present yourself as a founder, the more likely it is that they're going to listen to you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm trying to think from my perspective now as a founder. When people come to me, I genuinely ignore sales emails and like DMs on LinkedIn where they're like clearly trying to sell stuff. The only times that I actually listen and pay attention to those messages is if it's a founder, because so I guess if you're a salesperson out there, maybe I don't know. Actually, no, this wouldn't work. I was going to say, can you like hide as a founder and then suddenly you're a salesperson? But I guess that's kind of what we are. We're selling our service, right? But because we're a founder as well, it just opens so many more doors. People instantly trust us, and
Exactly.
the YouTube helps with that as well. Like our sales funnel is at the moment very easy for us because people have seen me on the screen talking about this topic hundreds of times, and they can see me sharing my like business. We do share a lot. We share a lot about all our like revenue streams and how it's all working and screenshots and everything, so it's very, very transparent, and just trust us instantly rather than someone that's just a cold sales pitch and I'm like, hey, I need to sell you this service. So it's definitely a good angle.
And how do you go about producing the content? Like what I know a lot of people do is that they have like one day and like they do like 4 or 5 videos in a day. Like, do you do that sort of thing, or how do you do it?
Generally, yes. I Because I can do, because it's quite flexible in that way. I do tend to go where my energy takes me. So if I'm like, yeah, today is a good filming day, I have the energy. If I've like recently washed my hair, I'm feeling like, yes, I can be on camera. I feel good today. Like generally, like it helps. You want to like look good and feel good on camera. Then I'll do a bunch in a row. I tend to have a lot of videos scripted. So when I feel the need to do some filming, I'm like, yeah, let's get a bunch done. I think that they are shorter videos, but I tend to tap out at like 5 or 6 videos. That's quite a lot to go through in like one sitting, for example. And I think I you get tired very quickly. It's crazy how exhausting it is, like memorizing a script and then saying it to camera and trying to bring energy to camera. Um, and yeah, and then I have an editor, so I'll ping him over the content and he'll edit that for me. And I try and get like at least a month booked out and scheduled in, so we're like ahead of the game. So if anything were to happen, then we've got some time to like fill gaps. But as I said, we're looking to increase the content even more. So I think the burden on me to kind of film and get stuff edited will be larger. But I just have so much. I have so much to talk about on this topic. So I'm like, I'm not going to be short of topic ideas. It's just about having the energy and getting all these videos filmed, because it can take a lot out of you.
I think the word energy is quite important because I think you have a lot on your plate, right? Like you're doing quite a bit, I feel. Like you have at least having two businesses in and of itself is a lot. So like how do you balance this? For me, like one business knocks me out. So like how do you do it?
Yeah. Well, there are two. There's two of us, so yeah. Where it's hard, it's also amazing because there's two of us, right, working next to each other. So we do have this like balance. So I think there's something in that. The energy side of it, I think that helps with the energy because you have someone to like bounce off of as well. Yeah, I think that really helps. And actually, from like this advice is actually, I read it and it was for couples, like for your personal life, was actually you should have the conversation with your partner, and I think this works for business as well, of like what your capacity is at that certain moment. So say for example you go out with your partner, life partner, and you're like, today I'm at like 20%. I had a terrible night's sleep. I feel
Yep.
really nervous about a pitch meeting I've got on Monday, like whatever that's going on, I'm at 20%. And then they can turn around and say, do you know what? Well, I've got you because I'm at 100%. So I can take like a lot of the burden of whatever it might be. And I think that goes to the same in business. Like there's times where you are just not there, you are not ready to show up, and again, it's the communication thing. Have that conversation to be like, I'm just not feeling it today. Or maybe there's an event on. We divide and conquer a lot as well, so we both get invited to the exact same stuff. So we always get invited to like ecom events in London. We used to both go because we were like, oh yeah, free food, this is fun. But now we never go to the same one. We never go to the same one because there's just no point. We might as well divide and conquer. One of us can rest or work on something else, and the other can be the face of the business that day. So it is really about being honest with yourself and who you work with on your energy, and I think that really helps.
That's good advice. Before I let you go, top tip for people that are looking to start a business, like based on your experience, doesn't need to be anything magical. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
You really want to try small things. So, like, I think people are obsessed with like having that multi-million-dollar idea that they can quit their job and make millions in one go. And I'm sure there are people that have done that and amazing, but they are unicorns. I started a business, and as I said, I was just practicing stuff and was experimenting, but I still had a full-time job for 2 or 3 years before I decided to quit. So, and yeah, don't just suddenly quit your job and be like, right now I'm going to start a business. I always say to people, like, experiment, start an Instagram channel, start a blog, just start something that's going to, like, even if you don't have an idea, if you're passionate about something, just start talking about it or working through some kind of prototype or something, but experiment. I think people are too scared to start because they think they have to have the finished item done, ready, business solved, like I have the whole business ready to go. No, just play around, because we still don't really know what our end business is going to look like look at us, we've got one brand, one agency. Like, we're just playing, and it's really fun. And we're going to see what, you're basically throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So I think don't be obsessed with having a final, like, finished item and being like, right, I've got everything finalized in my mind and I've got investors and all of this. No, just have a play around and experiment, because the chances are you won't end up doing what your initial idea was. That's what I've learned anyway.
I love this. Thank you so much, Lucy, for taking the time. It was a really good chat.
No worries. Thank you.